Hello everyone, welcome to part 28 of this series. Today we're going to add a day-night cycle and have certain enemies only spawn during the night. Before we start, I'd like to thank all of my Patreon supporters for the amazing support. This scene will be made available on Patreon. So here we are in our scene again, so we'll continue where we left off last time. So in order to make this work, we will need to use Action Pack 3. Link is in the description. It's a relatively new asset, so if you don't already have it, it's worth checking out. It basically allows for a lot of actions related to light in general, but what we'll be using today is going to be the day-night cycle. It's something that is just really interesting. I know there's tons of assets that have their own system. Often it's quite heavy, and the great thing here is that it actually allows you to set actions, game creator actions, at certain points in time. That's something I just honestly really love. It's really useful. Quite happy with that actually, and that's what we'll be using in order to make sure that we have certain enemies that spawn in our world during the night, and during the day they won't be visible. So I think that's pretty cool. It's definitely something that I find interesting with a with a game type like this. So yeah, let's get started. So first things first, I'm going to create an empty here. I'm going to call this time management, and I want to be clear, there's more you can do than just time management, but for now that's all it's going to be. So I'll keep it simple. I'm going to drag these objects, so we have all of these things. Let's drag them in environment. There we go. So the directional light we have, I'm going to drag that in. So it's going to be dragged in here, and what we're going to add here on the time management is the day-night manager. So this is this is what it is really. So let's drag in the directional light, and we'll set some colors here. Going to go for pretty basic. I'm pretty sure you can find some better settings, but yeah, it works well. So I'm going to keep this pretty light. That's something I'd advise in general. Just keep all of the colors light. I'm not even really sure the tint does a lot overall, but I'll keep it anyway just in case. And obviously for night it's not going to be a light tint. It's going to be pretty much the opposite. So there we have it. That's it for the time management. Now I'm going to set this to real time for now. I know to get lighting properly done, you'll need to change some other settings as well, but I'm just for now just going to keep it like this. So we have minutes per day, and in order to make sure all of this works the way it should, I'm going to set it to 1 minute. So basically, yeah, this day will pass really fast, way too fast obviously, but yeah, the reason for that is in order to make sure it all works and we can test this properly. It's going to be summertime, obviously, as you can guess, because we are using the vegetation engine. Seasons is something that will be interesting to have a look at anyway, as we already have seasons for our vegetation. So that will be nice to mix. But for now, let's just keep it with a day-night cycle. That's already quite a change. As you can see, we have action settings. That's the most exciting part about this. But let's get started with the sun curve first. Now, why do you need to do this? So basically, you don't want the directional light to be really bright during the night, because you'll get some really strange lighting effects. That's normal, and you'll need to zoom out. Let's just do a direct line here. And I'm going to change this key to 24. There we go. So a really long timeline. So 0 to 24. Going to close this and I'm going to open it again, and that way our scaling is a bit easier to read. Now I'm going to change this key. Oh no, let me just add a new one first. So I'll add a new key. I'll place this, as you can guess, I tried it out a bit. Oh, let me redo that first real quick. Made a small mistake here. There we go. No, not edit key. Add key. Can't even find it anymore. I should have just Control Z at first. Just undo. So yeah, as as I mentioned before, the time scale can be yeah, there we go. So let's edit this key. So value will remain. I'm going to put this to 0 already, and we're going to put the time 5. So that's 5 a.m. We can edit this first one as well. We can also set the value to 0. And then we're going to add another key here. So add a key, and we're going to set value to 1. Well, 0.2 actually. So normally it would be 1, but because of the way the lighting is already done in this scene, I'm going to set it to 0.2, and the time is going to be 6. There we go. So the reason for this, for doing it this way, so basically having 1 hour in between, is so that the transition is a bit smoother, going from no light to light. Even at the the fast speed of 1 minute in an hour or something like that, it will actually play nicely. So yeah, let's change this to 0.2 as well. I might have to change that back. When I tested it before, because I already had lighting set up, so I'm not really sure about the settings anymore, I needed to do that. So yeah, this value should be 0, of course. We're going to add another key here, and this is going to be 0 as well, and the time is going to be 20.5. Bit of a weird time, but I tried out what seems to work well, and those are the values I'm going with. So let's add another key here, 0.2, and we're going to do 19.5. So again, will be an hour, overlap, transition between the two, and it will look good even at this fast interval. So that's it. We have our hours. So yeah, perfect. This is what it looks like. This is our curve, and it will play well. So I'm going to hit play right now, and we're going to see what happens with the directional light. And yeah, that seems to work well so far. So let's give it some time. Now I'm going to click the directional light, and as you can see, intensity is at 1, which is even a bit too much in my opinion. I think this is a bit too light, so we might have to change that a bit. But yeah, normally, if you set it to 1, that's the one it should be. But yeah, I've played around with the settings so much. Yeah, I don't know. And there we go. Now, as you can see, I'm going to pause for a moment. The directional light's intensity is set to 0. We still have some light here, so it's not like it's completely dark. But there's, when it comes to lighting, there's tons of settings you can do. I had everything set to mixed, so there's a lot of lighting already baked in, not real time, which is why it's still so bright. So if you change everything to real time, you'd already have a different result. If you change everything to baked, etc. So yeah, that's something you'll have to play with yourself, depending on the settings you use, depending on if you're using default, render pipeline, URP or HDRP, your lighting will come out differently. So that's something you'll have to try yourself. But as long as you keep these you know, a curve like this, at least the timing will be about right. So perfect. That's pretty good. Now, this is the interesting thing I was talking about. This is what I really like, is basically we can set actions at a certain hour, even minutes, if you really want to be precise, which is something I really like. So I'm going to pick 21 here, and I'm going to pick 4, 5, let's do 5. So between these hours, we'll actually have different enemies visible on the map. Now, I'll keep this relatively simple. I'm not going to do something really crazy here. So we already have a spawner. I'm going to duplicate that spawner, and I'm going to change this to night. We'll just do the one enemy, and let's set these to 0. We only need the one. And what I'm going to do here is, let me go to, I think it was prefabs, the folder. Created a folder for all of the prefabs we made. There we go. And as you can see, I have an enemy knight, so I'm going to remove him. I'm going to drag in this enemy here. Now, this prefab seems a bit wrong. Let me unpack this. And yeah, let's set this to 0. I'm not really sure why he was not set to 0. There we go. So I'm going to rename this to enemy 1 knight, and you know, you can obviously add different ones. That's completely okay. And we'll keep this simple. We're not going to create a completely new enemy type. We'll just give him a different look for now, which is a bit lazy, but at least it's it'll add enough variation in my opinion. So I'm going to pick from the Fantasy Rivals pack, because that's the one we used for Medusa last time as well. So let's keep it relatively simple, and I'll use the Dark Elf. It's, you know, seems like the perfect type of character to only spawn at night. I know there's tons of really cool ones, but they'd require some different gameplay mechanics in order to well, to make sense, quite honestly. So let's pick our character here, and let's drag in Dark Elf. There we go. And yeah, it seems like the type of enemy that still makes sense. He doesn't really look like a boss fight in my opinion, like many of the others look like bosses. This one doesn't. He looks like the right type of guy to appear at night, so absolutely perfect. I'll keep everything else the same, and I'm going to dragging into my own prefab folder. So let's drag him in here. There we go. I'm going to remove him, and that's the one we are going to set in our spawner. So enemy knight 0, 1, perfect. So we've set that. So I'm going to create some actions here. So actions, and I'll keep all of those under time management because they're related. So spawn night enemies, and that's going to be a really simple set active. So spawner night. I'm going to turn. Well, I'm not going to turn it off just yet. Let me actually spawn it, place it somewhere else. There we go. Snap to ground. So yeah, it's placed here. Seems fine. Seems like a decent location. We can try it out. Obviously, change quantities, make it bigger, place more of them, etc., etc. This is just to show how it all works. So now that we've done that, I can turn it off. So we don't need it anymore. So spawner night, and we're going to duplicate this action, rename it to despawn night enemies, and that action will do exactly what you'd expect it to do. So it will turn off the spawner. And now we're going to drag in these actions, and there we go. So pretty straightforward. So let's give this a go. So if everything's correct, we shouldn't have any of them here. So as you can see, spawner night is turned off. Yes, I'm letting time go really fast still, so we can actually give this a go, because otherwise what's the point? So let me go a bit. Yeah, this is really bright. I'll tone that down a bit as well. Change the values to 0.15 or something like that. So we're here, we have our pretty little house here we set up last time. As you can see, it's slowly getting darker, so the intensity of the sun is diminishing, which is something I really like. And we have a quite natural transition. Obviously, the more normal time plays, the slower it will be, the more realistic it will be. So I'm going to pause right now, and our spawner night is turned active. And obviously, well, these are not actually, these didn't actually spawn, so I must have made a mistake here. Well, that's interesting. So I'm not really sure why they're turned off. Yeah, they seem to be working fine. Snap to the ground. So we have one. And they're all in the same spot. Okay, well, that's a bit awkward. Yeah, so we'll have a look at the spawner, because obviously that's not quite right. But as you can see, it's a new enemy appearing, real nice, real cool, and he for now functions the same as the normal enemies. And yeah, okay, something went wrong there. But now as time passes and it's time is changing again, as you can see, the spawner, because it's already morning, disappears and those enemies are gone. So let's have a look at the spawner though, because yeah, something didn't go quite well here. Let's have a look. So maybe it's a bit too, maybe I should increase the height a bit. I'm not really sure. To be completely fair, a lot of these settings are a bit off. So let me set all of this to 0. Open this up. Let's all set to 0. I'm going to set all of this to 0 as well. Okay, so that's combat. Patrol area, let's set all of this to 0 as well. And, well, let's set it to 1. There we go, that seems better. No, 0, 0.5 maybe. No, just 0 it is. Cool, so yeah, there we go. Everything should now be fine. Always something to keep in mind when you're doing prefabs. Make sure all of the values are properly set. I'm not saying it will work well now, but let's give this a go. I'm not gonna lie, this is pretty nice, having the sun come up like this, and I like it. There's a lot more you can do, so you can, oh yeah, I should have done the intensity first, but that's okay. So there's a lot more you can do. You can change the color of the sun, the intensity in actions as well. So you actually have a lot more control than just the the actual time cycle, as we saw so far. So that's really cool. That's really nice. Okay, well, there we go. They are here this time. So, but yeah, they're falling, and I'm not really sure why. They're all set to minus. That's just so weird. I'll have to look. I'm not really sure why. I don't know what I did wrong here. So let's increase this. Let's try that again. Might have to do with the terrain not being at the 0 level like it normally should be. So maybe that's it. We'll have a look. I'm not really sure where I'm walking right now. So yeah, there's tons more action, so you can actually change the color the sun emits as well for it to be warmer, for example, during sunsets and sunrise, which is a really nice touch. I really do enjoy that. All of those can be set with actions, timings of those. You can set exactly the same as we did with the enemies here, and I'm pretty sure they've fallen again. Let me have a look. So let's make some changes, and first things first, let's change these values a tiny bit, and there we go. Perfect. Then next up, let's take a look at our character. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to set this to 0. I'm going to grab both the patrol area and the character, and I'm just going to set it to 6. That way, at least they'll spawn above the ground. We're no longer going to mess around with that. It should work now. So let's hit play, and we'll see the next step. So let's first things first, let's look at the light. And with the lighting settings I have, this looks a lot more natural, a lot better. It's bright, but it's not too bright. I like this looks good. And yeah, you can even change this, really have peak times in terms of brightness, make it a lot more interesting even. But for me this works well. I like it. Color, the lighting is pretty sweet like this. But yeah, I still obviously have some baked lights as well. And there we have our guys. Now the spawning type should be slightly different, but at least they're spawning correctly. So all good. So that's it for this video. I know it's again a rather brief one, but I just wanted to start off with the basics of this. At least we have a good day-night cycle. Yes, you can introduce weather mechanics as well, so if you get Action Pack 3, I definitely have a look at the example scenes. You'll see that you'll be able to add snow, rain, and all sorts, which is really, really cool. So yeah, have a look. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.